Hi everybody, today we are going to talk about ordering fractions. Not placing an order for a fraction, but putting them in order. And the main thing that you need to know is we are going to be working with LCD, or lowest common denominator. That's just a fancy way to say you need to find the LCM, the lowest common multiple, for both of the denominators. So let me show you what that will look like. First of all, if you want to compare fractions, you have to compare the same type of fraction. They need to be broken into the same amount of pieces so you can see in your mind how big the section is. So if we are looking for the lowest common denominator between 4 and 8, we would want them both to become the same number. We'll make the whole fraction equivalent eventually, but I can tell you that in order to compare them, both denominators need to be 8, because I see that 4 times 2 will become an 8, and 8 times 1 is obviously 8. So the LCD of 4 and 8 is going to be 8. Simple enough. But to compare fractions, you have to make them both into their equivalent fractions that have the same denominator. So going back to our example up here, we're going to take 3/4 and we're going to make it into eighths. So the one I need to multiply it by is the 2/2. Remember, anything times the number 1 is itself. So you can multiply this times whatever you want as long as it's equivalent to a 1. So you could do 1,000,000 over 1,000,000. That's a 1. So 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 2 is 8. So it's equivalent to 3/4. Now if you look at 6/8 and 7/8, now if these are sour gummy worms, which is bigger and which is smaller? I'll tell you which one is bigger and which one is smaller. I would want a package that I could have 7 out of 8 instead of a package I could have 6 out of 8. So this is how you compare them. You put the greater than or less than. And however you do that, whether you think of these with the teeth and it wants to eat the biggest one, or it's a Pac-Man that wants to eat, or one year I had a class say it points at the small one and goes na 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 na. You are the small one. I don't know. However you need to remember it, you'll be using that symbol throughout your math career. So now let's say we want to compare 5/6 and 7/9. There are some of you who can look at that and you can say, well, I think that I know exactly what the lowest common multiple is. Or we can go to our lesson from 5.4 and we can make a factor tree of 6 and a factor tree of 9. And then I lined up the 3 times 2 and the 3 times 3, and I circled the 2 3's, and I'm only going to use them once. So to find it, I would do the LCM is whatever 3 times 2 times 3 is, which is 18. That's the best way to find that least common multiple. So I've gotten to this stage right here. I know that I need both of them to have the denominator of 18. And right here I'm going to put the greater than or less than. So I wrote 5/6. What do I need to multiply this by to get 18? Well, I know that 6 times 3 is 18, so it has to be a 3/3. 5 times 3 is 15. 6 times 3 is 18. What do I need to multiply this times to get the 18 over here? Well, this time, this one needs to be times 2/2 in order to break it into 18ths. 9 times 2 is 18. 7 times 2 is 14. Ooh, these are close. It's a close call, but if I need to compare them, this one is slightly bigger than this one. So 5/6 is bigger than 7/9. Remember, we got that by finding the LCM between the two denominators, and then we made both of these into equivalent fractions and we compared. Some of the things that you are going to be asked to do is put these fractions in order. You can guess. A lot of times you're going to be wrong. In order to be sure, what you need to do is be able to find the LCD of 12, 9, and 3. So I kind of have a general sense. I start with the big number, and in my head, what I do is, okay, I know a 12, 24, 36. 36, I think that I can do. So if I have 7/12, and then I have 5/9, and then I have 2/3, I know I want to make them all into 36ths so that I can compare them. This is a lot like what you did when we were working with the metric system and we were doing the swooshes. We've got to compare meters to meters, and we've got to compare 36 to 36, not 12ths to ninths. So we are making them into the same kind of number. What times 12 is 36? Well, I know that 3 over 3 will give me that, because 12 times 3 is 36. That's my 1. I always put the box around it because it reminds me of a 1. 7 times 3 is 21. 5 times 9, what times 9 is 36? Well, this one I have to multiply times a 4 over 4. So 5 times 4 is 20, 36. Oh, and this one is a 12. I have to multiply it times 12. 3 times 12 is 36. 2 times 12 is 24. So I'm going back up here, and it says I need to put them in order from least to greatest. So which one of these is my smallest one? Well, that's the 20. So the first one, I go back to my original, which is 5/9. The second biggest number is the 21 out of 36, which we go back to the 7/12. And the third number is 24 out of 36, but that goes back to the original number, which is 2/3. You will get them incorrect on the quiz and the test if you go the opposite way and do greatest to least, because the directions say least to greatest. Whenever you need to find something bigger or smaller, which some of your questions will ask, you need to go back to the same technique of finding that common denominator and deciding which one is bigger or smaller than the previous one. Hope that helps with your lesson today. Please come see me if you have any questions at all.